So it's going to be my absolute pleasure. I haven't met Kristo yet, but it's my absolute pleasure to invite Kristo on stage. Where is Kristo? There you go. John Davis to talk to us about TransferWise. He's the co-founder and the CEO of TransferWise. Give him a big hand. Thank you.
The title of what I was asked to talk about is the future tech of money. So basically big tech, but maybe more on the money angle than on the credit angle. So what I didn't tell the organizers is that I don't know. I don't know what the future tech is. I don't know if it's going to be Bitcoin or is it going to be something different on blockchain. I don't really know if we're going to have banks in 10 years' time, or are we all going to be banking with Google. There are now countries like India who have bypassed credit cards with mobile wallets. So there's 1 billion people with digital identity, and the volumes of money going through ATM and other mobile wallets is larger than cards. They're just going to jump the evolution in some places. So, but everyone who says they know what the future tech is going to be for money, they're probably delirious. I don't know, and I don't think anyone does. But I thought we could have a conversation. So I can tell you a little bit about what I've learned over the last 5-6 years building TransferWise, and then I'd love to hear from you. Like, what do you think? What do you think where this is going? So leave less time for the talk and more for the discussion. So I was already introduced that I'm kind of this complaining guy, and I'll tell you what happened to me. So I moved to London about 10 years ago, and I still had a mortgage back at home, back in Estonia. And what I thought is how this thing works is that I go to my bank and I transfer money to my Estonian bank so I can pay for the mortgage. And I expected that, I don't know if you can see this, but when I go to Google and check out what the exchange rate is, then that's the exchange rate. You know, Google doesn't lie, it says it's $1.25 US. What I painfully found out later on is that the truth is this. Again, you can't see this, but there's actually multiple rates for a currency, and they're different to the one that Google tells you is the truth. So when I found out that a bit of my money goes missing every time I make a foreign transfer, I realized that what the bank does, it doesn't give you the real exchange rate, the Google exchange rate, or the Reuters exchange rate. What they do is they take that rate and add a margin on top of it. So instead of 1.25, they will charge you 1.3. And the only way you find out is if you're wise enough and you go and check. If you're not, you'll experience what I did, which was losing about, roughly I think about 1,000 euros over the course of a few years. Before I came up with an idea. But before that, I checked this morning, because I hate to make statements that there is an issue without verifying there is. So this is today morning, Raiffeisen in Bulgaria. Any Raiffeisen bankers here? So this is just how it works in Raiffeisen. The spreads on US dollar, they're pretty good, just 4% of the money you lose. If you go to something more exotic as Turkish lira, it's 12.2 this morning. But you're not allowed, so take a random other one, Unicredit. It works the same way. All it's doing, it's not that these two banks are bad. Like, all the banks work exactly the same way. And that was also my realization about 5 years ago. And that was how I felt. This is also one of our first adverts. I think we paid dearly for this. It's very expensive to put a couple of things on a bus stop. I'm surprised that London allowed us to do it. But that's genuinely how I felt. So the solution to this was this. I found out that I'm not alone with this problem. I had a friend who you met in Tallinn, in Tartu, and he had the opposite problem. So he had euros, but he needed them in London. as pounds because he was living in London and paying rent in pounds. So what we started doing is what like every normal person would do. I would just give him my pounds because he needed pounds and I didn't need them. And we looked at the Bank of England exchange rate, or the Google exchange rate, or the Reuters exchange rate, which you find out that is exactly the same. So there is this one true exchange rate. And then he put the equivalent amount of euros onto my account in Estonia. And suddenly we realized that we're both saving this, the 12% that the bank wished to make on us. I was just keeping it. And what happened next was we figured out how to make this work, not just for us, but for other people, because years went by and nothing was changing. So where we are now is starting 2011 with just 2 bank accounts, pound and euro. We're now about 600 people in 9 offices. We're moving $1.3 billion a month going through the systems. And the proudest number actually, and these are all kind of nice big numbers, a slightly smaller number, but the one that makes us all quite proud is that our users save about $1 million every day. So $1 million that Raiffeisen, UniCredit and the other banks aren't taking on the spread. Unfortunately, it's still a drop in the ocean of what they get to take. So this is the job cut out for us. The reason why I'm talking about this isn't because the future of money is going to be TransferWise. That's not what I want to say. I want to inspire a little bit that the way TransferWise happened was looking for a solution to a problem. So if you really want to change the future of how finance is going to work, or how money is going to work, it's worth starting to look at the places that don't work today and looking for creative solutions for that. At the time, launching TransferWise didn't really need a lot of technology. It needed a bit of code, a web page, a couple of bank accounts, and we could launch it. Today, putting 1 billion through the system requires a bit more. We have a team of 150 engineers who are trying to figure out how to trade in real time on 40 markets around the world. And that's a lot of complexity. But you can start actually quite simple, like we did. It depends on the problem that you're trying to solve. The actually harder problem, and when we talk about the tech, is there are very few problems where the tech is the only solution. Very often the solution is not just technology, it's technology and things around it. The first speaker today was talking about blockchain and patents, and the question came, the governments enforce those patents. We're also quite clear that if there was an enforced transparency, if the banks would tell you how much they charge, maybe you wouldn't even need TransferWise. Maybe there's an organizational solution that can solve the same problem. So that's why we're working with, and we're trying to figure out how do you build something like TransferWise across 60 countries around the world, and you work with the Japanese government the same way as you work with the Canadian government. It actually becomes quite tricky once it's global. But part of it is working. So there was a news article out a couple of weeks ago, and the news article was around one slide that was somehow ended up in Guardian's journalist's desk. And that slide was made in Santander. The reason why I want to add this here, I don't know how much you can see, basically I realized that if I ever need to explain TransferWise, I just need to show the slide, and I didn't even need to do the slide, it's just a copy of someone else's slide that did it in Santander. And what they're doing is they're kind of explaining how much profit the bank is making. So this is something like 585 million, I think. and out of this currency exchange business, and how much they might plan to make in the future. So I saw this slide, and the reason why they believe this is the future is a bit of a calculation how TransferWise works and how they work. I kind of realized that this actually quite neatly explains the future that is becoming apparently a bigger and bigger problem for banks. And they're realizing that it's quite interesting that we've been around 5 years. It's only now that they're starting to realize that bonanza is not quite going to last forever. So, kind of looping back again, what I started talking about is just this one problem, and the one problem is very simple. There's a UX problem with currencies. You have less. We have pounds in the UK, other people have euros. It's quite nice for central banks to have different currencies to manage their economies, but for a user, it's a UX problem. So how do you get around this? We're not going to all join euro, and the world, at least not in short notice, isn't all going to move to Bitcoin. So our solution to that was just assuming that money will become digital. Can we make it absolutely seamless to move between currencies? Can we make it instant? Can we make it really, really cheap? And thereby, by not actually removing currencies, can we just solve the UX problem around it? So this is just a couple of tweets from our users about the speed of transfers. So we now got to under a minute transfers between currencies, which unsurprisingly is quite exciting. It's quite hard to do, but once you get to that stage, you don't really care anymore which currency you're holding, and you don't care which currency you're buying in, because it doesn't matter. The UX problem of switching between currencies gets solved. I mean, it doesn't really yet, but we're on the way there. So that's our story. I'd be now keen to hear if you have any questions. I can go and answer, but also if you have any thoughts of what are the big problems that you believe that tech will be solving in finance. Open floor. There's a guy in a suit in the front.
How banks make money in this world, but I'm interested how you make money. How much you make?
We make money. We don't make money. We charge our customers, so our customers give their money to us. But the difference is that we tell exactly how much we charge. So our promise to the users is that the money always exchanges at this true exchange rate. So we're recognizing that there is one exchange rate between any currency at every point of time. You can go to Reuters, it will tell you what this exchange rate is. So we're using that exchange rate always, and the users know that they're not going to be sneakily charged within that margin. But we do charge a fee. So in major currencies, we charge about 0.5%. So if you send $1,000 to the US, we would charge, was it $5?
Got time for one more question afterwards.
Are you looking into using blockchain into your business model?
Good question. I'm very interested in blockchain. I actually code on blockchain on my free time. I haven't yet found a good use of blockchain within TransferWise. In fact, the kind of old school transactional technology can be faster and cheaper than using blockchain. Blockchain would be needed when you need to create trust between parties who don't trust each other. In our context, our nodes are our own nodes in every country where we operate. So at the moment, we haven't really found a good use of blockchain.
So last year, there was something like Last year, there was something like 650 billion in international remittance, and 400 and some of those billions were to people without bank accounts. And they even get charged more than the ones with the banks because they use MoneyGram in the Western Union. Can you reach those people? And have you thought about it?
I've thought about it a lot. So I think your instrumentation isn't actually accurate. So it's not 600 billion, it's somewhere around 20 to 30 trillion. If you look at you kind of start looking at how much trade volume there is between countries. Because most of the money isn't about sending money home to mom and pop. It's buying cars from another country. It's buying oil, buying fish. It's the normal life of us, paying salaries in a different country. So this is where the real money moves, and actually this is where the real profit is made, or the real kind of extraction of profits. Your question, can we reach unbanked, is an interesting one, and I don't see this as particularly our problem. I think it's rather a problem. How do we bring unbanked people into the banked world? How do we bring them directly into digital bank? And I think, again, referring back to India, is a great example where they realized that banking isn't so much about money and banking as much as it is about identity. So as soon as they got all their people onto the Aadhaar, the identity system, suddenly every one of them has access to, whoever has access to a smartphone has also access to a wallet on the smartphone that they could use as their digital bank. So I think that's the journey that we're going to take. First of all, we need identity for those people who don't have bank accounts, and then they're going to move on to a banking platform, and then they're almost automatically on TransferWise as well.